Competition to win
a walloping great £25,000.
Good luck with that one.
Now then, 4 years ago, Olly Rofix had an operation which saved his life. He was suffering from a very rare form of leukemia and needed a bone marrow transplant. But it wasn't a member of his family that saved him. He was a complete stranger.
The moment Olly Rofix met the stranger who saved his life.
Pleased to be of assistance. I really am. Thank you so much. That's quite all right, any time.
Just 20 years old and diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia, Olly knew that without a bone marrow transplant, he would die. Desperate for a donor, his family members were tested, but none of them were a match. He was placed on the donor register alongside 120,000 others. Of the 9 million registered donors worldwide, only 2 matches were found. Luckily, one of them was in Cambridgeshire. And 4 years after having his life-saving treatment, Olly finally met the stranger that saved his life.
Well, Olly and Matt are here with us now. It's great to see both of you. Thanks for coming in. Olly, first of all, how are you doing now?
Very well. Yeah, everything's all in the good.
It's been a few years, hasn't it? And it's an extraordinary thing. To be able to save somebody's life, but for it to be a complete stranger, it must have been very surreal when they said we've got a match and it's Matt.
Yeah, it was just in Christmas, just before 2005, when they said there was a possible match. So that was a very strange feeling at that time to think, Christ, you know, there's going to be someone out there who's going to ultimately save my life.
Yeah.
Next year.
And of course, it took a couple of years before you were able to meet Matt. That's just how they do things. So those years must have been so full of questions of what he's like and where he's from and why he wanted to do it.
Yeah, back when I was having my transplant in Addenbrooke's, I can remember sitting there with this bag of bone marrow or blood at the end of the bed, and I was just watching it drip into me. And I thought, you know, who is this guy? What is he like? How old is he? Where's he from? And I just couldn't believe after you know, this weekend finding out that he was just down the road.
Yeah, isn't that crazy as well? Because you knew so little.
Yes,
he was just an hour away, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what was that meeting like? What was it like when you first met him?
For me, it was mixed emotions, really, because I started to remember the time when I was ill. You know, I was struggling then, but also just amazed because without him, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and that's the reality, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
What you've done is you've saved his life. An incredibly generous thing for you to do. What made you want to do it?
There was a young lady who lived near me who needed a bone marrow donor, and she couldn't get one, and she actually died, leaving a young family, and that's what made me join the register in the first place, which was back in 1995. So I'd been on the register all this time and never had a call. And
then suddenly you got a letter?
Yeah, a letter.
Had you forgotten that you were on the register?
Yes, you do. It's just one of them things you do, you forget all about it, and then all of a sudden this letter drops on your map and you think, oh, crikey.
Yeah, what am I going to do here? And what was the procedure like? Because we understand that it's quite painful. It's not something you go into without thinking very carefully about.
Yeah, you have to think carefully about it, yes, because you don't want to sort of turn around and say, oh, no, I don't want to do it anymore, because they've got somebody lined up. But as regards the painful part, no, it wasn't painful for me at all, really. Mildly uncomfortable, I would say.
It's as simple
as that. And that's it, yeah.
And
just for a couple of days. Oh, definitely, I'll do it again, yes.
Recommend it. Now, I know, Olly, you're planning on a single-handed sale around the UK, is that right?
That's right, yes, yeah, to raise awareness and for funds for the Anthony Nolan Trust. Which
is the most important thing, and that's how you found Matt. How's that coming on so far?
It's come on very well. Well, the whole thing came about when I was having my transplant. Well, just beforehand, I realised that I was going to be lucky to pull through this. And so I bought this 18-foot sailing boat. That was my inspiration, my focus to get through the transplant. And it was over the course of last year when I thought, well, let's go and sail this thing around Britain.
Wow.
For the guys that have helped me.
So that's the challenge. When are you hoping to launch?
Launch the boat in May. We're going to get down to the south coast hopefully this year to raise the funds to then get around Britain next year.
And raise as much money as you can for the Anthony Nolan Trust. Thank you so much for coming in. Best of luck with the trip, Matthew. It's an incredible thing that you've done. Obviously, the testament to how generous you are that he's still alive. Let's hope he gets around the country as well. Thanks for coming in.
OK, that was.
You can find out how you can help save lives through organ donation, plus read a lot more about Olly's story on the website GM.TV.
Now, for the first time, the Brits have teamed up with GMTV for their own...
This gossip and analysis on your...
6 years ago, Olly Rofix from Suffolk was diagnosed with leukemia. Even during the darkest days, he clung to a dream to set sail on a solo voyage around Britain. As Kevin Birch reports, today, that dream came true.
Obviously, there's going to be some really nice, sunny, relaxing parts, but there's also going to be some quite nasty weather, which is going to be quite enduring, but it's going to be good fun.
This morning at the historic St Catherine's Dock in central London, Olly Rofix was counting down the minutes to the start of an 8-month journey which he knows will test his stamina to the limit. More than 2,000 miles in a boat which was once a wreck. It's called Jolly Olly. It's just 18 feet long. I know this boat wasn't designed for someone of my size, but it's only when you get inside you realise how confined it is. I call it cramped. Olly calls it cosy. But you look around, you know, everything is really neat and tidy. Everything's where he wants it to be. Everything's got its place. And, you know, for the next 8 months, come fair weather or foul, this will be Olly's home.
I'm so excited that, after 5 years of living in fear almost of anything coming back, and also, you know, it's 18 months of hard work all being put into one day now, which is brilliant. I'm really excited.
We first met Olly last year when he spoke about his sailing dream and of the transplant which saved his life. And we filmed the moment when he finally got to meet his donor, Matt Hall from Wisbeach, for the first time.
Hello, Oliver. Yeah, well done. Good morning.
Morning, Matt.
You all right?
Today in London, the two were together again as Matt joined family and friends to see Olly on his way.
Hopefully on some part of the journey I'm going to join him. I don't quite know when. I have sailed before, but it was a long while ago, and I am very rusty. So I don't know how the seasickness will go.
For the Anthony Nolan Trust, I want to try and get as many donors as I can on the Anthony Nolan Trust register, and also on the way around maybe pop into some Teenage Cancer Trust wards and meet with people, you know, like how I was 5 years ago, and try and put my story across and just see if that helps them in any way.
He feels lucky to be alive. He remains fiercely determined. He is a true inspiration. Kevin Birch, BBC Look East, in London.
The story of Olly Rofix. He's from Suffolk and he's a remarkable young man. Olly was diagnosed with leukemia in 2005.
He had a bone marrow transplant the following year, and if all that wasn't enough, he's just completed a solo voyage around Britain. Olly returned to London early this afternoon and Mike Liggins was there to meet him.
St Catherine Docks on the Thames. Some big boats, a very big bridge, and then in the distance a very little boat. At the helm, Olly Rofix from Clopton near Woodbridge. After 7 months away, he was back. Olly's mum and dad were there to greet him, and after all that he's been through, leukemia, a life-saving bone marrow transplant, a sailing trip round Britain, they were entitled to be a little emotional.
I think he's obviously proved great inspiration to many people who are obviously laying in hospital beds at this moment or at home, recovering or just being given a diagnosis that you know there is light at the end of the tunnel. Sorry, it always gets the old.
Olly set off on his journey round Britain in March. He did 2,500 miles in his 18-foot yacht, Jolly Olly.
It's got everything. It's been scary, it's been fun, it's been sad, it's been absolutely everything all in one little package, really.
This is where Olly's been living for the last 7 months. It really is tiny. The bed is here, cooker's over there. It must have been a bit like living in a car for all that time.
Best bit, definitely going across the Bristol Channel with the dolphins. There were 2 dolphins that took me right the way across, and it was just brilliant. They were jumping out of the water here, and you could grab hold of them. Really, really good.
Olly met a number of famous faces on the trip, including Dawn French and celebrity chef Rick Stein. Back in London today, the first person to say hello was Matt Hall. He was the man who donated the bone marrow, which helped save Olly's life.
He's done a brilliant job, yeah, and he's still doing a brilliant job. He's raising a lot of awareness for the charities and things, and, you know, he's just showing people what you can do and how you can get through these things.
And guess what? Olly is now planning to go around Britain again, this time in a speedboat.
But this time, go around in 2013, go around and visiting all the RLI stations, if possible, and hopefully working with Teenage Cancer Trust to take other patients or survivors with me.
Olly's goal has always been to inspire others to fight cancer. Well, he's done that now, but clearly the Olly Rofix story is far from over. Mike Liggins, BBC Look East, London.
What a good story it is, too.
He's so special, isn't he? Let's get the weather now with...
Olly Rofix was one of only 3 people in the world to be diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia. His only chance of survival lay in a bone marrow transplant from someone who shared the same tissue type. Luckily, a donor was found.
Now, 5 years on, not only is he in remission, but he's just sailed around the coast of Britain solo. He's done it to encourage more people to become bone marrow donors. We spoke to Olly on this programme before he set off. Now he's back. Tell us about the trip. How are you?
It's been fantastic. Yeah, it's been brilliant. I turned up yesterday, and it was a whole mixture of emotion when I was coming down the Thames there, followed by the London Met Marine Division and the RLNI too. It was just a really fantastic experience, yeah.
I think we can see some of the pictures of your arrival. This is only yesterday, wasn't it? And I imagine after quite a lot... First thing I'm thinking is, that's a very small boat to spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, it's a bit small. To be honest with you, the biggest part of the challenge, I think, for me was living in such a small area for such a long period of time.
You have to be very organised, I imagine, in there, to keep it tidy, otherwise it could just be chaos.
Yeah, I soon learned what I need and what I don't, so chucked everything where I didn't. So it's just really very basic down there, and it very quickly becomes a mess, so you really got to keep on top of it all.
Was it lonely?
There were parts of it that were lonely, yeah. But, yeah, I quite enjoyed it because, you know, you turn up into a marina and loads of people come down, look at the boat, they want to hear the story. But then when I'm out there sailing, that's my time to relax and get away from all that hassle. So, you know, brilliant overall, really good.
And the
experience.
reason, Olly, you did the trip is to get people's attention on the idea of organ donation. And for so many people, it's kind of an academic thing. I think in principle, yes, of course, it's a wonderful thing, but maybe don't do anything. And you had to have a bone marrow transplant.
Yeah.
And you got to meet your donor, didn't you?
Yeah, I met him last year. And another just totally random, really weird experience because, you know, when I was ill, I can remember this bag of bone marrow just dripping into me and just wondering, who is this guy? What's he like? Where does he live? And so to actually meet him was fantastic.
This was the moment here?
Yeah, well, that brings back some memories, yeah.
And what were his reasons that he gave for being a donor?
It was nothing to do with my story. There was one of his... a local friend or someone locally to him was then terminal, I think, or during this big bone marrow drive where he lived. And he just joined because of that, because he wanted to help. And then, well, I think it was about 15 years later, I came along and he was called up. You know, he's one of only 2 in the world.
And the idea now of what you're doing, and I know you're going to be doing other events as well, is about just getting people thinking about the issue and taking it more seriously. I mean, there is still a problem with people signing up, isn't there?
Yeah, it's really, really hard. Well, especially from this trip, I've learned that it's really hard to try and get younger males, especially males, on the register.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think because a lot of people, and I presume when I was 20, I maybe thought the same. It's probably not going to happen to me, so why bother type thing. And I've come across that quite a lot. So it's very hard to get to the emotional side of the person and actually make them think about what they can, what the outcome is.
We've got 10 seconds. What's next for you?
Next is, well, from Southampton Boat Show, Suzuki and Ribquest are going to come together and build this rib. I'm going to go around the country again in 2013 and hopefully take other patients with me, other survivors like myself and their siblings, and maybe get involved with Teenage Cancer Trust and the RLNI, hopefully.
Good for you. Good stuff, Olly.
Nice to see you
Good to see you again.
Many thanks.
Glad to see you.
Let's see what's coming up later on Breakfast. Do we need a little more